If you're watching this video, I'm pretty sure you're planning to or will fly with Copa Airlines. Something that many people doubt about when thinking about traveling with Copa is the idea of connecting in Panama City. The vast majority of Copa's passengers do not have Panama as their final destination, but are instead connecting between two of the many destinations the airline serves in the American continent. Still, having to connect in Central America often creates some insecurities among travelers. So, before we get into the actual process, let me answer a question I believe most of you might have. How terrible is the experience of connecting in Panama City? Well, it's not terrible at all. If you're not an aviation enthusiast, you will be surprised to hear that Panama's Tocumen International Airport is one of the 5 airports with the most passenger traffic in Latin America. If that doesn't convince you, in 2022, the airport inaugurated their second terminal building, Terminal 2, which is absolutely stunning. Therefore, there's nothing to worry about. It's something that literally thousands of people do every day. In fact, you'll be pleased to be setting foot in a new country and thankful for the extremely easy connection. More on that in a second. If you're connecting in Panama City, I'm 99% sure that you're coming from abroad and heading abroad as well, as there are very few domestic flights within the country. Therefore, all connections will be international. So, does the fact that you're arriving from other countries mean that you'll have to go through immigration and enter Panama before you can catch your next flight and leave the country again? Absolutely not. That is the best advantage of connecting through PTY. Connections are as simple as you can imagine them to be. Knowing that people in most cases do not stay there, Panamanian authorities have made the transit process extremely straightforward to help Copa expand their business. Therefore, as soon as your flight arrives at the gate, you'll get off the plane and you can head straight onto your next flight's gate. You'll deplane onto the departures area, so you won't need to do anything other than look at the departure screens to see where your next flight departs from. That will be the case no matter what your connection is. Hearing this, you might now understand why Copa often sells tickets with very tight connecting times in Panama. That's basically because it doesn't take any time to make the connection there. However, you must be careful with that. While Copa is supposedly the most punctual airline in Latin America, they might have some delays as well. Honestly, I didn't have any in the 4 flights I took with them, so that's a good reference. But the point is, if you can leave some time in between flights, just in case, that will be better. Not only because of any eventual delays, but because Tocumen International is a big airport as well. It has 2 terminals, which are connected by a hallway, but walking from one end to another might take a good 15 to 20 minutes. And it won't be strange for that to happen, as Copa's flights depart out of both terminals. When we arrived from Miami, we parked in Terminal 1, at one of the furthest gates away from Terminal 2. While we were not connecting anywhere that time but staying in Panama for a few days, we still had to make the walk to Terminal 2 to go through immigration, and it was a pretty long one. We could also see those passengers who were running to their connections in Terminal 2 in what wasn't the most comfortable situation, I assume. Therefore, having time to reach your next flight's gate is also important. Considering you're interested in the connecting process in Panama, I assume you're flying with Copa, as that is pretty much the only option. With that into consideration, you must also bear in mind that Copa starts boarding their flights an hour in advance. So even though it will not leave before the scheduled departure time if there are passengers missing, arriving in Panama knowing that your next flight is already boarding is not the ideal situation. It happened to us when we arrived from Buenos Aires and had to connect to Miami, that we had a little delay on the ramp, and when we eventually got off the plane, our next flight was already boarding. We still made it with enough time, but I'll just say I'd rather make my way to the gate calmly, looking around, than walking at a fast pace, looking at my watch. As far as the connection itself goes, that's about it. It is honestly as easy as it can get. There's actually no such process, and I've already given you some tips to have in mind as well. On another note, if you have extra time at the airport during your connection, I'd spend it at Terminal 2. It's so much nicer. Actually, it's a beautiful terminal. Anyway, That's all I have for today's video. As you saw, there's not too much to explain on the connecting process itself, but rather calm you down as it is nothing to worry about. If Copa is your best option, do not hesitate about the fact of connecting in Panama. I hope this video came in handy, and if that was the case, don't forget to leave a like and subscribe to the channel so as not to miss any of the upcoming uploads. In case you're interested, all my trip reports flying with Copa have already been uploaded in the channel, so you can go check them out there. Thank you very much for watching until the end, and I'll see you next week for a new one. On to the next one!